And that's 90.9 FM Honolulu, 91.9 FM Island-wide, 92.7 FM Anahola Moloa'a, and 88.9 FM Honolulu, and streaming worldwide at kkcr.org. And this is Taj with Transformational Tea, and you were listening to A Collection of Sand, and so now we are on a new show.
The views and opinions expressed during this program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of KKCR, its management, board, volunteers, or underwriters.
Transformational Tea with Taj is made possible by KKCR sustaining members in partnership with Doug the Bee Guy, Ya Caduce Bagels, and Ho'olono Natural Remedies.
Got bees? Doug the Bee Guy supports KKCR, and so should you. Specializing in beehive extractions island-wide, over 16 years experience. Also offering honey, propolis, tincture, and wax. Doug the Bee Guy, the hum of the bees, is the voice of the garden. 212-4178.
Ya Caduce Bagels, traditional and artisanal boiled bagels, hand-rolled and baked fresh in Kapa'a. More info at Ya Caduce Bakery on Facebook and Instagram. Wholesale or personal orders available by email at yaquddusbagel@yahoo.com. Thanks for supporting KKCR.
Ho'olono Natural Remedies, an Aina-based company that supports Malama Aina practices, offering Kauai-made farm-to-bottle herbal preparations for optimal health and natural vibrations. Ho'olono Natural Remedies can be found at health food stores near you. International shipping available at HOOLONO.com.
And mahalo to Doug the Bee Guy, Ya Caduce Bagels, and Ho'olono Natural Remedies for supporting Kauai Community Radio. And today, I have a guest, and my guest is Romanesco, and he is a Vedic astrologer, and he's going to talk to us about all kinds of wonderful things about Vedic astrology. Originally, he was a private health chef and a medical cannabis expert, and then things started to change, and he's going to tell us a story about how he got into that, and he's coming up in the next 10 or 12 minutes. So just sit back and relax. And my first piece is Rising Appalachia with Harmonizing, piece that's fragile with Sting and Stevie Wonder. And, you know, that's the thing about humans. We actually are so fragile, and we feel like we're not, but our physical forms are definitely fragile. And on that note, I want to introduce my next guest, because it's part of what happened to him and how he got into Vedic astrology. So this is Romanesco. Romanesco, hi, welcome.
Aloha, Taj, and aloha, KKCR listeners. I'm so humbled and honored to be here with all of you today.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that you could come. It's really wonderful. I don't think I've had a Vedic astrologer on in quite a few years. So it's wonderful. It's timely. So before we talk about you, just could you tell us what is Vedic astrology, and then go into how you got into it? But what is Vedic astrology?
Beautiful. So generally, Vedic astrology and astrology, I call it the map of life. We use Google Maps to go to the store. Why don't we have a map of life? And we do. And it's one of the most ancient sciences. The greatest men, the greatest women, the kings and queens of the world used astrology and talked about life and the stars in order to help find their way and get what they wanted. Vedic astrology specifically is astrology of India.
Okay. So, and what is it? Is it based on the Vedas? Is that what part of it is?
There's a lot of symbology and a lot of myths and stories related to the Vedas, the ancient teachings of India. Yes.
Right. And can you tell us a little bit about how it differs? So it's Eastern astrology as opposed to Western, and Western is it sidereal? I know the words, but I don't really know what they mean.
So it's very, very similar as far as the signs and the houses and everything. The main difference is that we use the same zodiac, the same map of the stars that astronomers use. So because we're using the astronomical location of the stars, it feels more accurate and it can be a little easier to forecast and make predictions. Western astrology uses a different map of the stars, which according to how you look at it, you could say it's off about 23 minutes, or you could say it's like a map that's old and outdated. So I personally feel that I get way better results with Vedic astrology.
Oh, great. So how about if you tell us a little bit about what you were doing and who you were before you got into Vedic astrology, and what actually really helped you go into it and how it worked for you?
I just remember I moved back from Manhattan, New York after going to the Natural Gourmet Cookery School, one of the best and first health supportive cancer cooking and health supportive cooking schools in the nation. And I was working as a executive health chef at some of the best drug and alcohol rehab centers in Malibu, California. And my dream and my passion is, I just want to cure cancer with food. I just want to, I got another company called Make Love With Food, which is where I got Make Love With Astrology from. And it's just amazing using all this great farmers market food. And my cousin Ben came out from New York to be my sous chef and help me cook. And he was 18, and his girlfriend, her father was a mailman who's doing Vedic astrology. And he said, "Hey, Romanesco, let me talk to you about Vedic astrology." And I just immediately took to it. And that was 18 years ago.
Well, what was going on with you at the time?
Well, personally, like many people, I was just having a lot of questions about life. I was just young in my early 20s and just wanting to create a career, at the same time just wanting to make a difference and impact in the world. And I was living in LA. So LA is just such a wonderful city, so many talented people. It's just the stress, the traffic, the pollution. So I just would have this horrible crushing anxiety so often, and I would just feel lost, just feel like I was making mistakes, not following my path. So that's where Vedic astrology came in. Vedic astrology, to me, it's the map of life, the book of life. It's an instruction book. It's a recipe. As a chef, I love recipes. And whenever I had questions in my heart, I said, "Okay, astrology, if you really are real, then I'm going to ask this question. You got to give me an answer." And every time it just gave me a solution.
Wow. And so when you were in New York, did you have that, were you feeling that way, with anxiety in New York, or was it just when you got to LA and you started actually working and being in the world there and the pressure of that real life?
It really has been a lifetime struggle. When I was 10 years old, being diagnosed with ADD and ADHD and anxiety, and just having different medications and being in different psychologists and therapists. Of course, they was taken out of Taekwondo and martial arts, so maybe if I had expressed my body more, it would have been fine. But then the older I got, just this, nothing I did work. It didn't matter what doctor I went to, what herb I took, what massage or body work I go to. It would get better for a little bit, but over time just got worse.
Wow. So then how did Vedic astrology, was it listening, was it talking to you about, what to do or how to do or when to do, or what made the change? Because I know you're so sensitive and you eat the best food. And if I ever have an issue, I go to Romanesco and say, "Okay, I need herbs for something. Where do I get them?" And he knows a lot, and it's really helpful to me. So is that part of what got you to be like that?
100%, because astrology is a map and astrology is hope. Imagine if you're driving to Tunnels Beach and you don't know how long it'll take you. Will it take 10 minutes? Will it take 10 hours? Will it take 10 days? Imagine if winter, the days get shorter and the nights get longer, but you don't know when the days are going to get longer and the spring and summer are coming again. That would be a lot of stress, right? So when we have a map, and like Google Maps or Waze, it tells us where we are, but it tells us when we are, how long a cycle is going to happen. So just when I could understand these cycles, and these cycles, just like we've got a cycle of day to night, or spring, summer, fall, or winter, we have cycles of money, we have cycles of health, we have cycles of spirituality, and we know when they're going to happen and how long they're going to happen. And when we do that, even if we feel it's going to be a bad cycle, we don't lose hope, because we know it's meant to be and we know when it's going to end.
Right, and they're just challenging us to go beyond whatever it is that we're stuck in.
Exactly. I've got a little food analogy. So example, garlic. Garlic, you put it in, Taj's famous pesto. That garlic is perfect for that pesto. It's meant to be. But if you take that garlic and put it in ice cream, Okay, it's curious, it's interesting, but it's not really good for that. So that's what astrology teaches us. Vedic astrology has 4 aims of life: Dharma, our path; passion, purpose, our fire; Artha, our earth; our money, our resources, anything physical; Kama, our air, invisible, like our relationships and thoughts; and Moksha, our spiritual healing and enlightenment. And what's good for our money may not always be good for our spiritual healing.
Right. Right. So is it about keeping all of them in balance, or just seeing how the patterns work?
You know, that's a very good point. I really feel like it is both. I really feel that life has so many lovely experiences, and we're meant to experience all of them. We're not meant to just play in one corner of the sandbox. Right. It's don't just eat Chinese food or Mexican food or Italian food. Let's sample the whole buffet of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's an interesting one. And that can be so challenging. But I guess it's giving you the opportunity to say no to some things by trying them, or to say yes to some things, and then see who you really are. Right?
Exactly. We're just... There's a saying in Vedic astrology that the highest path of life, the greatest thing we can do is the 9th house, also related to the 9th sign of Sagittarius, which is knowledge and God and spirit. But then there's a little secret about astrology I'll give you and your listeners today. There's a 9th of the 9th house. So just like you hit a C on a piano, there's a higher C, and the 9th of the 9th house is the 5th house. And the 5th house, the 9th being, what's the secret of life? What do we all got to know to have the best life possible? The 9th of the 9th is actually the 5th house, just having fun. Just having fun and enjoying ourselves. So just experiencing, being like a child. Wow.
Right.
Whether happy or sad or good or bad, I'm here and I'm shining like the sun.
Right. Just like the innocence. And that's what it's all about anyway. Are we meant to be so serious and drag ourselves down, or are we meant to have that lift so we can actually be more creative? Because when you stay in that higher frequency, you allow all these other ideas to come through that are just floating through the etheric, waiting for one of us to grab them.
And a really good analogy is the sun rules the 5th house. And what does the sun do? Does the sun go and run out to all the planets and say, hey, come over here? No, the sun, as a king, as our father, as our teacher, stays still and centered. And with its divine light, it attracts the planets and the right opportunities and people to orbit it. And those that don't want its light, they can just slingshot away. So I like to say, he or she who dies with the most fun or the most sun wins.
So then you got into it, and then, to use it, but when did you decide to actually deeply study it and have it become such a permanent part of your life as something you do for others?
Well,
and how did that go? Like learning it, to me, astrology, it's not my thing. I can't hold on to it, but it's so incredibly detailed.
Well, actually, astrology, in my experience, is so simple, even a 10-year-old child can do it. And because the roots of astrology are all based in nature. Fire is hot, water is wet, earth is stable, air is invisible. It's all these basic things we experience. So sometime I would love to teach you the basics of astrology. I could honestly do it in about an hour, and that would be all you need to know.
But you studied for a long time. I know you did, because to be as clear and fluid as you are, it didn't just come in, a month.
I've been studying for the past 18 years.
Okay, now we get the truth.
Yeah, to realize that I only really needed to study for a month. So for 18 years, about 2005 is when I started. And when I moved to Kauai, I was blessed to be around wonderful people like you, Taj, and just be inspired by the Ohana and the Aina and you. It's just for the little shout out to Taj for the listeners. She's one of my greatest teachers and mentors here. She's really taught me the power of a female elder and what I can learn from them. So just a big mahalo to you, Taj, for all you've taught me. I came to Kauai and about 2.5 years ago, and I just brought so much baggage with me, so much mainland and LA stress. And I got here still holding on so tightly to old behaviors, old patterns, old things. old businesses, old ways of making money.
Was that just as COVID came in or just before?
I came right when COVID, about May of 2020.
Right. So there was a lot of stress with that too. It wasn't just your regular stress. It was this whole thing about, the unknown.
I had to fight to get here. And it was in my chart. It said, Romanesco, you got to fight to come up. This isn't just going to be gifted to you. You're going to have to grab it with your hands. And I did. Oof. So I came here and just every day more layers peeled. And gosh, maybe about 6 months ago, maybe around Christmas time of last year, I was just going, I can't just work on the computer anymore. I can't just be living in my head and not living in my heart. I am dying inside and I need to live from my heart. I need fire, passion, purpose, knowledge, and I need healing, moksha, and water. And I need a job, I need a career where I can just interact with people like that all day long, not just send emails and texts, but connect.
Right. But you were doing it because since I've known you, you were giving all of us sessions. Everyone I know had sessions from you because it was just I know it was like a fun thing, but it wasn't fun to us. It was like such a positive experience to have you share your gift. So
you were just my greatest guinea pigs. I was just, because that's the thing with Vedic astrology and astrology is that it's mind-blowing, almost unbelievable that we can actually have a map of life, a book of life, something that we can always count on to be true. Just like nature, we can always count on nature to teach us. So I was just, okay, this says it's true, and I would test it on dozens of people, and it would always, always be true. Certain forecasts, certain predictions just always seemed to came true. And you guys were just my lab rats. Thank you.
Well, since you mentioned that, can you explain what is the difference or the subtlety between a prediction and a forecast?
Okay. I just really, from my heart, I just really want everyone listening right now to just understand this and understand just from my heart, this is 18 years of understanding and testing and suffering and meditating for this, is that it is possible to make 100% accurate predictions or forecasts or whatever you want with astrology. And that's because the basis of astrology, it's going to blow your mind, is not the stars, but it's the earth and the cycles of nature and the cycles of earth. Like I said before, fire is hot, earth is stable, etc. Each sign of the zodiac actually rules something in nature, like Virgos are forests, Geminis are storms. So in nature will always be true. Night will always follow day. Summer will always follow spring. So there's a way to practice astrology where we can make predictions about health or wealth or love and say, you're in the summer of love, it's going to last this long, and then the fall of love will come. And when we humble ourselves and just don't get up all our head in the stars and try to be cool boys and girls.
Head in the stars, that's good.
I know it's like controversial, but like get back to the earth, astrologers. That's where it's at. When we just go in our hearts and just really try to be of service, it's just really possible to be 100% accurate with cycles. And just to be clear, just the difference between predicting and forecasting. If I say, Taj, in 1 year, 5 months and 3 days, you're going to meet this wonderful person with blonde hair, 6 foot tall, driving a red Mustang, and they're going to want to marry you and whatever. Okay, like that's a prediction, and honestly, that is not helpful in my experience. Maybe that makes the astrologer look really cool, but for that one time he got it right, there's millions of times he got it wrong, and that doesn't help you, doesn't give you answers and solutions. And why would you want your birthday present ruined anyways? Let's have a surprise.
That's right. You want to keep the presents a surprise.
But what I can say to you, Taj, and you see me be accurate, is I can forecast that on March 16th, that you're going to be entering this wish cycle, this genie cycle, where your greatest wish will manifest. And that wish is for the 11th house of the earth that is stable. When earth is stable, it's the doldrums. And we may not create new relationships, which rules air, but our existing relationships get stronger. So it rules groups and tribes and teams and community and circles. So you will be sitting in communities, you'll be hosting circles, you'll be going parties and throwing events. And from March 16th to November 2023, that wish will come true. And that is 100% accurate with all of my clients. I can do that.
Okay, I love that. So just for a moment, You're listening to KKCR Hanalei, KAQA Kilauea, and this is Taj with Transformational Tea, and my guest is Vedic astrologer and amazing chef and expert in many things, medical cannabis as well, Romanesco. All right, so we're back. Just a quick moment. So let's look at what you might be seeing for the Earth or the planet. Like what you're saying about, you can be pretty accurate. I have had my friend Lynna Masterson, who's an amazing astrologer, come on and say, like in 2019, all she said was everybody needed to get their stuff together and really work on themselves because 2020 was going to be so crazy. And she couldn't say why. And that's when COVID hit. And it was all about, healing your past, healing your wounds so that you wouldn't be like attacking others or attacking yourself, so that you could be strong and sovereign. And she couldn't explain it in detail, but it was quite an amazing thing. She talked about 2020 more than 2019. So it's 2022 and we've had, half of a year already. So maybe 2022 or 2023 or wherever you want to go.
Oh, amazing. I would just like to share with your listeners that there is a wonderful planet that is my favorite planet to predict with, and it is the Genie planet. It is a planet of wishes and trends. It's the planet that makes this celebrity go big. It's the planet that makes the Beatles get big. It's a planet of trend. And this planet is called Rahu, the north node of the moon, or the dragon's head. And I just want to explain a little bit about where it's been to show where we're going and the power of it.
Great.
So basically, whatever sign that this planet goes in the heavens, it makes that sign the strongest sign of the zodiac. Out of all the signs, that planet, that sign, that energy expresses itself all throughout the world and in our personal lives. So when Rahu was in Leo, the sign of kings, the sun, and politicians, that's when Trump got elected.
Oh, wow.
It rules orange things also, as you can tell. When then Rahu, a year and a half later, moved into the sign of Cancer, which is the power of innocence, the power of vulnerability, the power of softness, the power of weakness, that's when the Me Too movement started.
Wow.
When Rahu then moved into Gemini, which rules a sign of storms and chaos and social media, that is when COVID happened.
Wow.
In 2020.
And that took off.
And that really took off.
Social media took off. Everything computer, like Zoom, all these things just took off.
Exactly. So I call it quantum language. I'll get back to predicting a little bit, but just to talk about your point. So I call it quantum language, where how do you say hello in Hawaiian, Taj?
Aloha.
How do you say hello in Spanish?
Hola.
Exactly. So hello, aloha, and hola all mean the same thing.
And they have similar letters.
Exactly. So astrology works the same way. I'll call it quantum language, where the language of the sign is Gemini, the language of the planet is Mercury, the language of the nature is storm, the language of the physical thing is social media. So all those things literally mean the same exact thing. And when we train our mind to see one thing, the microcosm, and then we see the macrocosm, that's a way to really help astrology work. And that's why Zoom and a lot of these tech companies took off, because they're ruled by Mercury and technology and the mind. So almost about to get to what we're going to experience this year. So right after COVID, Rahu then went into Taurus, the sign of fertility, the sign of money and wealth and pleasure and food. That's when the stock market took off. That's when crypto took off. That's when everybody was getting stimulus checks and there was money, wealth. It was fertile. It was harvest time. But now harvest time is over. And after Taurus comes the sign of Aries. On March 16th of this year, Rahu, that planet of trend and wishes, like a genie rubbing the lamp, it's going to come true no matter what, is in the fire that creates, the cardinal fire, the spark, the wildfire, the inferno, the warrior.
Oh, so into war.
Into war. And astrology teaches us to be objective.
Right.
I know war may not seem like a great thing, and there's a lot of sadness and things that come along with war. And the Ukraine-Russia conflict started right around that time. But the medicine, the lesson this has to teach us is how do we all be warriors in our own life? While Taurus is the rose, Aries is the thorns. How do we protect ourselves and protect what we love and stand up for ourselves? How do we fight for what we need to believe in, whether it's for love or for God or for each other or for the Aina or for the Ohana? It rules things like blood, the body. So like I was talking about quantum language, since Aries rules the body, look at now the metaverse. Everybody's going to have a new body. That wish is coming true because we're all going to be having these metaverse avatars. Maybe we're getting scanned, things like that.
Well, that's interesting.
So this is, while the whole world will be focused on the warrior and the body and blood and strength and power and the masculine, hopefully more divine masculine instead of toxic masculine. At the same time, this will affect us all in a different house in our chart. So while the sign, while the flavor, while the energy is fire and sparks and wildfires and war and warriors and all that is going to happen in our house of career, in our house of love, in our house of health, wherever it's going to happen, we can tell by looking at the rising sign. So when I do a client's chart, I can look at the rising sign.
Okay.
And I can talk more about that if people don't know what a rising sign is.
Well, could you, because it's different. I mean, the timing is different. I was looking at my chart today, and my rising sign, it's my sun sign, is different. So is everything slightly off compared to sidereal astrology?
Yeah, so two things I'll speak to that. One is about the difference between rising sign and sun sign. And then just to re-clarify, imagine Western astrology is a clock that's off about 23 minutes or a map that's old. So whatever sun sign we think we are in our charts actually isn't correct. If we use the sidereal zodiac that NASA and astronomers and sailors and plants and animals grow to, they're all different, about 23 degrees back. So surprisingly, you are not the sign that you think you are.
Right. So that's okay. So I'm going to lead into this question. So whatever you believed about yourself, is it just completely different, or just a degrees of perception different?
Well, we all have a level of intuition, and the way astrology is set up is that we all have Mars, we all have Mercury, we all have Venus, we all have all the signs because we are life, and astrology is a map of life, has every ingredient, every flavor. So sometimes we're told one thing, but then intuitively I lean more this, I don't know why, but I feel this. But when I have sessions with my clients, it just feels just mind-blowing. It feels as some magic is happening where their ancestors sent them to me because it's about time for you to receive light, and my ancestors welcome them because it's to truly find out who you are. My analogy is, imagine your whole life imagine you're a fish, okay? And you love swimming, but your whole life people tell you you're a goat. You gotta be climbing mountains. Is your fish body gonna be happy climbing that mountain? No. So our whole lives we can feel wrong or different. What's going on? Why does everyone tell me one thing, but I know it's not in my bones? With Vedic astrology, Jyotish, the eyes of the Vedas, we shine light on it, we open up our eyes, and it's like we finally understand who we are for the first time.
Wow, that's so interesting. Okay, so keep going on with our prediction here, our forecast.
And then I can get back to the difference between rising sign and
yes,
sun.
no, that's where we were. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
There's so many tangents.
There's tangents upon tangents upon. So, just to all the listeners right now, just from my heart, I know that for years with Western astrology, we've been told about our sun signs, and I honor that. There's so many good Western astrologers, and anyone who studies astrology is such a divine science. It's what an angel to do that. And in my experience, my truth, what I've seen in my clients is a sun sign, controversial, really isn't that important as you would think. And the way I like explaining it is, okay, the sun sign rules the souls. Okay, the soul's important, right? but there's trillions of souls, there's zillions of souls, they're all flying around. But what's the one thing they all want more than anything? A body. There's only 6 billion bodies, because being a planet, being a god, being whatever it is flying around, I feel it's actually kind of like a job. It actually feels a little bit lonely, because if Mars is flying around in the heavens and wants to get close to Venus and love Venus, it can't, because they'll blow each other up. So to me, Earth is like the vacation for the gods. It's where they can send a piece of themselves in and experience chocolate and love and pain and dolphins and taxes, and it's a whole human experience. Earth is the party, and the body is a ticket to the party.
Okay.
We need a body, and that's what the rising sign is. The sun sign rules the soul, which is cool, but as far as making predictions and as far as understanding who we are and what magic powers and abilities we have, the rising sign is the fish.
Interesting.
It's the fish body.
Wow. Okay, that's a different explanation. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So then what's next? Where are we going from March into 2023? What are the cycles looking like?
So just from now until November 2023, just to kind of let everyone know, this is going to be time, as I mentioned, to learn how to have the thorns for our rose in our life, to stand up, to focus on our bodies, focus on our strength, focus on ourselves, focus on our brothers and sisters, and help them, brotherhood and sisterhood, and fight not in a bad way, but for a good way together. And after that, it's going to be, we're going to be going into Pisces. And Pisces is a very interesting energy, because on one hand, it rules the water that changes. It rules the ocean and the clouds and the sky and the space, where we can surrender and we can let go. Because when we're floating in the ocean, floating in space, there's nothing to hold on to. We're just one with everything, one with the divine world. But then at the same time, it's called the sign of loss.
Oh, really? That's gonna be, and loss. I know loss can mean many things, because I had that for a year and a half, and it can mean positive things. It could be, letting go of something that you wanted to let go of. It can be with war. It can be losing people, right? It can be, losing your job, but it can be because you want another job. So there's always both sides of what letting go and what loss is.
And thank you for sharing that, Taj, because I just feel it's very important for us to talk about loss and surrender right now. And I just remember watching you, I won't go into details, but just watching you go through this cycle.
Yeah, I had a lot of loss, a lot, and it was really beautiful, because what it did for me and made me grow was amazing.
It is, and that's just part of the beauty of loss, the lemonade from this lemon. So loss. Pisces is a sign of lost and found, where sometimes we got to lose our old self to find our new self, where sometimes we got to lose that old job to get the new one, because in order to open up our palms and receive what God and the universe wants to give us, we can't have our hands full. There's a funny little meme that I love, where it shows this cute little girl, and she's holding this little teddy bear, and on the other side of her is Jesus, and Jesus is kneeling down, opening up his hand, saying, "Give me the teddy bear." And the little girl goes, "But I don't want to give it up, Jesus. I don't want to give up my teddy bear." But what the little girl doesn't see is behind Jesus's back is this big old teddy bear that's even more beautiful and more bigger.
Yeah. It's definitely a powerful time. So we have one more little moment here. Up next is Soul Kitchen with Willie. You're listening to KKCR Hanalei, KAQA Kilauea. And I'm sitting here with Romanesco talking about Vedic astrology.
So to talk a little bit more about surrender and loss. So there's so many beautiful things to become one with the divine, to even in sacred sexuality, to become one with another person, to let go and create space. It can rule things like caregiving, helping those who need us, charity, things like that. And then also it can really rule some heartbreaking stuff. And after war comes a lot of loss. people lose things, and just not trying to be scary or anything, but just the reality of life objectively. We can lose people we love in war. We can lose our homes. We can lose our peace of mind. We can lose our physical possessions. So
there's always something on the other side. So holding on to it as a bad thing, as opposed to, okay, each one of these things is an opportunity. It's kind of like what you said. When you learn how to give, you learn how to receive. So giving is what actually allows you. You give and open your hand to receive and come back to yourself. And so all of these things that we've judged as hardships, yes, they're challenging for us because we've been all stuck in these emotions and not really realizing that this is just what is. These cycles are what is. They're not wrong. They're not bad. They are just part of the experience of being a human. As you said, we've come down with a ticket of the body, and now we don't realize what that ticket actually is composed of. So it could just be paper, but this one is like a full experience of everything. And so holding on to anything, even loss, like holding on to it, even though we're going to go through these cycles, we will come out the other side, just like knowing that person has evolved into the next field of experience.
And Taj, that's just so helpful what you're saying right now. And that's just the hope I want to give to all of your listeners right now, that this is the hope that Vedic astrology teaches us, is the hope of the math, the hope of the cycles. We do not have to fear winter. We do not have to hate winter. We can understand the magic of winter, and that spring will always come. So just from my heart, I want all of you to know who are listening right now that if you ever need anything, that I am here. I've made a promise to myself to be here for whoever needs me, to let go and surrender myself and help any way I can. So if you're ever feeling hopeless, you
can go to Romanesco's website, which is called makelovewithastrology.com, or you can email him at romanesco@makelovewithastrology.com, or you can actually call him at 657-243-3663. And if you check out his website, he's got some good offerings. He's got a blog. It's interesting. So I would, it's an interesting thing to go and go to his website, and he's got a video on it and all kinds of stuff. So to me, ultimately, you're saying that our Vedic chart is another perspective to bear in mind on our multi-dimensional astrological experience.
Amen, women.
Because from what you're saying, is that your chart becomes a mirror to see ourselves and our place in the world in a completely different way than maybe I have seen myself, because I can't see the mirror. That I can't see myself in the mirror. I can only see the surface. I cannot see what's underneath it. Right?
Exactly. And just for all the listeners to know, Taj is actually really a Gemini. She's a Gemini rising. She is a queen of the storms. She is the air that changes, and you should just see her. She's such a butterfly flying around, and I love her so much.
Yeah, and normally I'm a Libra. So that was really like just to wrap my head around what, why. He had to explain what he's explained here to me a few times to really actually get it. So it's fascinating. Vedic astrology is fascinating. And I read somewhere, I'm going to quote, that Vedic astrology reveals the way in which we, restrict the energy of unlimited love and awareness, and it lights the path toward greater acceptance, authenticity, and harmony in our lives.
I'd like to add to that, if that's okay.
Yes, please, because that was just one little thing that I got a quote for today.
Well, you are the queen of Googling in your chart, so you would find that information, sister. Just another little tidbit. So, again, going back to the 9th house, because we ask ourselves, what's the greatest thing we can do in our lives? How do we be happy? What do we do? So the 9th house rules spirituality and life and God and knowledge and the path and the way. But it also rules true love and divine love. And here's just a little lesson to take with you, listeners, is that the reason that is because when one person puts life and worships life in God more than anything, and another person worships and put life and God more than anything together. They have a trinity with life,
Right.
a threesome with life. And true love is actually true life.
That's beautiful.
Two people just putting life first.
Right. Well, it's been said that there's always three, because there's the one person and the other person, and then the God within it. So that makes a whole nother divine unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just the opposite of that, I just gotta be honest, the opposite of that of life is death. The opposite of the plan and the path is distraction. So by getting distracted away from life, by spending our energy and wasting it instead of focusing it on what's going to grow life and create life, that is kind of the opposite. That's called like true death.
That's
True death.
interesting. So would you say that when you focus on something like your astrology, you can see, it will help you to see these things that are distractions that maybe you're not even noticing when you do a reading?
It just humbles me so much. There's nothing that helps me realize those distractions more than astrology, because when I'm doing this right now, I'm not in my head. I'm not back in LA hustling. I'm not trying to get money. I'm not trying to get something, but I'm just in my heart. And I've got everything that I need right now. I've got my heart.
Right.
And that puts me in my heart.
So that's the case for all of us. When we can stay in our hearts, that's staying present. And so being present, then there's nothing else. You're just right here, being with what is, doing what you're meant to do, instead of distracting yourself from that.
It is. There's another little saying I created that if we want to talk, well, let's say there's two types of angels. There's heavenly angels and then there's earth angels, if you know what I mean. So if you want to talk with the earth angels, you use your mind. But if you want to talk in the mind, our analytical mind, all that area,
Right.
that's like the text, that's a cell phone number of the earth angels. That's how you text them. But if you want to talk with the heavenly angels of fire and water, if you want to talk with God, if you want a text message with God, that phone number, that cell phone is the heart.
Oh, that's a great one.
And that's how God and the angels hear us, is we communicate with our hearts. And I just got to say one more thing. So I've always been kind of a hippie, but I swear for my whole life, especially, even the past up to 2 years ago, I was so frustrated. God, I can't really feel emotions. I'm stressed all the time. I can't do magic. I'm not psychic. I want to be this more than anything. Why can't I do that? And it wasn't until I came to Kauai and started getting into my heart that, oh my gosh, now I'm starting to talk to things. Now there are, I don't know if they're angels or God or my ancestors, but things or beings are communicating with me. Signs and symbols, speaking through other people, speaking through rocks and songs. So by using the heart, the fiery physical heart of knowledge and love, and the emotional moksha watery heart of just letting go and surrender, that is how we create magic. That's how we become psychic. That's how we really feel connected and just feel like someone has our back, because it's scary being here not knowing if who's going to support me. So it's not just a brotherhood or sisterhood, it's like a godhood, it's an angelhood of all these ancestorhoods behind us, cheering us on with, I'm Aries rising, so for me it's swords and shields going, we got you, let's take care of all this. So I just want all your listeners to know that honestly, I don't know if you ever feel hopeless or helpless, if you ever don't feel the magic or get the signs, but I promise you, they're there, and astrology teaches how by using our heart, that we can have access to all of that magic.
Right. And the heart is the way, because when you can stay there, there's only love around you. And so it can come through so many forms, whether it is an animal or a person or, I don't know, I've been talking to rocks for, my whole life, practically teaching my children to do the same thing, because everything has consciousness. So why wouldn't we hear, when we can tune in a different level, we can expand ourselves into the multidimensional realities. So that's a beautiful thing.
And you're a beautiful rock whisperer. She has amazing rocks, everyone. She should show you her collection sometime.
So, do you have any, before we go, because we have only a couple minutes, do you have any other pearls of wisdom to share before we go? Because we have like 2 minutes.
Just from my deepest heart, I want you all to understand how special you all are. There's nothing wrong with you. Many times I felt wrong or bad, but in astrology, there is nothing wrong. There is nothing bad. Everything is perfect, and you are perfect, and there is hope. And please, please, please learn astrology. Again, all the basics you need could be taught in an hour to help you read the map. If you can do Google Maps or Waze, you can do astrology.
Awesome. So if you do want to connect with Romanesco, you can go to his website, makelovewithastrology.com, or email him at romanesco@makelovewithastrology, or call him at 657-243-3663 for an appointment, or just to, he'll share his wisdom.
Just say hi. Please, I'm lonely. Be my friend.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been so wonderful. And we will have you on another time, though, because maybe in January when the time changes. That'd be great.
I'd be honored to, and I've looked forward to this for so long. Just that voice that's like almond butter on velvet. I love it.
We do that for each other, don't we?
We're a good team, Taj and I.
All right. So I will be back next week. Actually, I have 3 Sundays in a row. And thank you so much for listening. The next song up is She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. And we have Willie here with Soul Kitchen. And have a beautiful day.